What if an economic system was literally designed to punish you for hoarding cash? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the real economic discipline behind Islamic finance, and trust me, we're moving way past those surface-level rules. I am super excited to guide you through this, because the source material we're breaking down presents a truly fascinating economic framework. We're talking about a completely different way to look at wealth. It's not just numbers on a screen. It's a holistic ecosystem with strict, systemic rules on how capital flows, how it's preserved, and how it absolutely must benefit society at large.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. Beyond the legal loophole, 2. Purity of income, 3. The needs hierarchy, 4. Cleansing wealth, and finally, 5. Zakat and wealth hoarding. Let's jump right into Section 1, Beyond the legal loophole, and the true purpose of Islamic finance.
The source text hits us with a pretty hard truth right out of the gate. It states that most people treat Islamic finance like a legal loophole exercise, basically trying to just clear the bar of halal while totally ignoring the actual economic discipline required to build real wealth. And honestly, trying to just clear that minimum bar completely misses the point. Think about what this looks like in practice. Someone might hire a whole team of lawyers to draft a wildly complex, convoluted contract just to mimic a conventional interest-bearing mortgage, simply to get a rubber stamp of approval. But the text argues that treating this as a mere checkbox exercise ignores the rigorous, structured approach to capital that this system actually demands. It isn't about reverse engineering conventional finance. It is an entirely different operating system.
The core difference here really comes down to how we define money itself. In conventional finance, money is basically treated as a commodity, right? You can buy it, sell it, or rent it out to someone else for a guaranteed return, which we call interest. But the Sharia view defines money strictly as a medium of exchange and a measure of value. Let's break that down with a simple analogy. You can't take a $100 bill, plant it in the dirt, water it, and expect a money tree to sprout. Money itself does not yield fruit. Human effort, risk, and physical trade yield fruit. Because of this, the whole objective shifts from merely tracking cash flow to ensuring the absolute purity of your capital. Money isn't something you just grow passively by letting it sit in a bank. It actually has to do something productive in the real world.
Moving on to Section 2, Purity of income, earning through value creation.
In this system, valid income has to be intrinsically tied to real economic activity, value creation, and risk sharing. Halal income comes from things like tijara, which is tangible trade, ajara, earning wages through labor, or mudaraba, which is joint profit sharing. For example, say you invest in a local bakery. Under a mudaraba model, you actually share the risk. If the bakery crushes it, you share the profits. If it goes under, you share the loss. You are deeply invested in the real economy. On the flip side, we have what is strictly prohibited, riba, which is guaranteed interest, garar, meaning excessive speculative hazard, and maisir, zero-sum gambling. You literally cannot make money simply from the passage of time without taking on any risk, and you can't make money from pure chance. This framework demands genuine risk-sharing economic participation.
Next up, Section 3, the needs hierarchy and disciplined consumption.
So once you've earned the money properly, we have to look at what happens when it actually leaves your wallet. The framework evaluates your expenses relative to your capacity through this remarkably logical, sequential way of managing a personal budget. Valid spending follows a strict 3-level hierarchy. Imagine a single professional mapping out their life. They've got to start with Step 1, the hurriyat. These are the absolute core necessities for survival, preserving life, faith, intellect, lineage, and wealth. Think paying rent, buying basic groceries, keeping the lights on. Once those are entirely secure, they can move to Step 2, hajiyat. These are needs that remove hardship or improve efficiency. Maybe upgrading from a grueling 2-hour bus commute to a reliable, modest car for work, or getting a faster laptop for your career. Only after that level is completely satisfied can they look at Step 3, tahsiniyat. This level allows for comforts and refinements that enhance your quality of life without excess, like maybe a nicer jacket or a better trim on that car, provided they don't cross over into pure vanity.
But there is a hard limit to that third step. The absolute boundary of forbidden spending is marked by 2 concepts, israf and tabdhir, which mean wastefulness and profligacy, basically spending excessively on unnecessary luxuries or things that bring zero benefit to your worldly or spiritual life. The source material explicitly forbids arrogance through consumption. It absolutely demands you prioritize mandatory family maintenance over flashy luxuries. In today's era of hyperconsumerism, where everyone is pressured to keep up with the Joneses and succumb to lifestyle creep, this acts as a built-in psychological defense. It forces you to pause before buying that 4th designer watch and ask, Does this actually bring any tangible benefit to my life, or am I just being wasteful?
All right, Section 4, Cleansing Wealth, the Purification Framework.
Because look, even with the absolute best intentions, the modern financial world is complicated and it gets messy. A crucial part of this discipline is what happens when impure money accidentally slips into a carefully managed personal balance sheet. Say you unavoidably get hit with mandatory bank interest on a checking account, or a dividend from a massive company that happens to have a tiny, non-compliant revenue stream. You can't just keep it and look the other way. You have to calculate the exact portion of that impure income and cleanse your portfolio by giving it away to charity. And the absolute key here is the mindset. This has to be done without expecting any spiritual reward. Sadaqah without thawab. Think of it like finding a stolen wallet on the sidewalk and giving it back to its owner. You don't get to parade around as a great philanthropist for doing that. You just restored balance. By giving away accidental interest, you aren't being generous. You are quite literally just taking out the trash to purify your own financial house.
Which brings us to Section 5, Zakat and Wealth Hoarding, forcing capital into productive use. And this is where the focus on preventing wealth hoarding really takes center stage.
2.5%. Let's just pause on this number for a second, because its impact is huge. Zakah isn't just a charitable expense or, a nice thing to do during the holidays. The source describes it as a fundamental financial obligation built around an annual levy of 2.5% on qualifying surplus wealth. Notice that it's a levy on wealth, not just on income. That distinction is the secret sauce to why this system works, and it radically shifts human behavior when it comes to capital.
But just to be clear, this doesn't apply to every single dollar you own. This levy only kicks in if your surplus wealth sits idle for a full lunar year, a condition known as haul, and is above a specific minimum threshold, known as nizab. To ground this in mathematical reality, if a person is living paycheck to paycheck, and their living expenses empty their checking account every month, they pay absolutely nothing. The system is incredibly protective of the vulnerable. It strictly targets surplus, idle cash. If you have excess capital that is just sitting in a vault, doing nothing for 12 consecutive months, that is what gets taxed.
And here is the absolute most important takeaway of this explainer, and the real genius of this economic mechanism. By constantly taxing stagnant wealth, Zakat acts as a systemic engine that literally prevents wealth hoarding. Let's look at the math for a second. Imagine a billionaire who decides to just hoard their money, pulling hundreds of millions of dollars out of the economy and stuffing it under a proverbial mattress. Under this system, they are guaranteed to lose 2.5% of that massive pile every single year. The wealth will literally deplete itself just by sitting there. The only mathematical way for that billionaire to preserve or grow their wealth is to invest it back into the productive economy. To stop the bleed, they have to put that money to work, in trade, in startups, in real estate, in asset creation. By doing so, they inadvertently create jobs, generate goods, and provide services for the rest of society. It acts as the ultimate anti-monopoly mechanism. It inherently punishes economic laziness and forces idle capital to constantly circulate, which rewards active economic participation that benefits everyone.
Now, to keep this productive capital flowing safely without creating massive systemic risk, the framework has really strict rules on debt. Debt is treated as an exceptional instrument reserved for genuine need. It is absolutely not a tool for routine lifestyle leverage. The modern conventional world often encourages taking on massive debt to finance depreciating assets, right? Like swiping a credit card for an extravagant vacation or taking out a huge loan for a luxury sports car. But here, all financing must be asset-backed or asset-based, like a murabaha. It completely avoids conventional money-for-money loans. You can't just borrow cash to buy more cash. Financing is always tied directly to the tangible economy, preventing the kind of runaway debt bubbles and speculative crashes that so often plague financial systems.
So, we are looking at a comprehensive end-to-end discipline for capital. Think about your own financial habits for a minute. If your idle savings were taxed at 2.5% every single year, how would that change your approach to hoarding versus actively investing? If keeping cash in a stagnant account literally cost you money year after year, how quickly would you start looking for ways to actively invest in the world around you? Treating money purely as a tool for exchange, rather than a commodity to be hoarded, could completely rewire modern capitalism as we know it. It's an incredibly powerful, challenging shift in perspective. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope it gave you a clear, structured look into the real economic mechanics of this fascinating framework. See you next time.